So Second Chronicles chapter 31, we're going to get into today. Israel has done something they haven't done in over 100 years, almost 200 years probably, and that is come together, all the tribes, to worship. Now, not everybody's there, but a lot of righteous people from each tribe is there to do this, and it's had a profound effect on the people for good, for their benefit. Now, this chapter, we're going to learn more as this continues to spread through Israel. Verse 1, Now when all this was finished, all Israel that were present went out to the cities of Judah, and brake the images in pieces, and cut down the groves, and threw down the high places and the altars out of all Judah and Benjamin, in Ephraim also and Manasseh, until they had utterly destroyed them all. Then all the children of Israel returned, every man to his possession, into their own cities. So they went out and they got rid of idol worship. They got rid of the idols to Baal and Baalim. They've cut down the groves. Those are the places where they do the fertility rites for Ashtaroth, up in the high places where they burn incense and offer sacrifices and things. So they're getting rid of idol worship, wiping it out, destroying it, cleaning up the area so there's no more places for idol worship to happen. Now, verse 2, And Hezekiah appointed the courses of the priests and the Levites after their courses, every man according to his service. The priests and Levites for burnt offerings and for peace offerings, to minister and to give thanks, and to praise in the gates of the tents of the Lord. So he's putting them in place, the priests and Levites, to do what they were always told they should be doing, which isn't so much go make money, get a living for you and your family, but focus on taking care of the spiritual needs of the people, basically. Verse 3, He appointed also the king's portion of his substance for the burnt offerings, to wit, for the morning and evening burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths, and for the new moons and the set feasts, as it is written in the law of the Lord. Moreover, so Hezekiah is putting forth the animals from his wealth that will be needed for these occasions to do the ordinance work that needs to be done. Verse 4, Moreover, he commanded the people that dwelt in Jerusalem to give the portion of the priests and the Levites, that they might be encouraged in the law of the Lord. Now, if you remember, the Levites and the priests don't make money necessarily for themselves. They get paid through the offerings. When people offer money for offerings, they take a portion of it. When they offer meats and flour for the offerings, they take a portion of it. That's how they sustain themselves. They're full time dedicated to the spiritual development of Israel. So they don't have their own lands and crops and animals and things that they're working with, basically. So the rest of the people have to support the priests, and that's what King Hezekiah is asking for here, is let's support these priests. Verse 5, And as soon as the commandment came abroad, the children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of corn, wine, and oil, and honey, and of all the increase of the field, and the tithe of all things brought they in abundantly. So they're following the law of tithing. They're bringing that piece in as well to donate and to help. Verse 6, And concerning the children of Israel and Judah that dwelt in the cities of Judah, they also brought in the tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of holy things which were consecrated unto the Lord their God, and laid them by heaps. In the 3rd month they began to lay the foundation of the heaps, and finished them in the 7th month. Then, and when Hezekiah and the princes came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned with the priests and Levites concerning the heaps. So they brought in tons and tons of food and for oxen and all kinds of things, basically. The tithing that came in was so great that they just made heaps, just mounds and mounds of the stuff pulled together, basically. So now Hezekiah is questioning and asking some questions about these heaps to the priests. Verse 10, And Azariah, the chief priest of the house of Zadok, answered him and said, Since the people began to bring the offerings into the house of the Lord, we have had enough to eat, and have left plenty, for the Lord hath blessed his people, and that which is left is this great store. So this is extra. So the people are offering their offerings, the priests are getting their portion, completely taken care of and filled up, and now this is extra above and beyond the priest's portion. Verse 11, Then Hezekiah commanded to prepare chambers in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them, and brought in the offerings and the tithes and the dedicated things faithfully, over which Conaniah the Levite was ruler, and Shimei his brother was the next. And Jehiel and Azaziah, Nathan. Okay, so they're going to go through and name a bunch of these people. They were overseers under the hand of Conaniah and Shimei, at the commandment of Hezekiah, and so they're pulling the resources in, the storage of goods in, basically, so they can use them. Verse 14, and Kor, the son of Imnah the Levite, the porter toward the east, was over the freewill offerings of God to distribute the oblations of the Lord and the most holy things. So this is probably given for travelers, probably for poor people, to raise them all up. They've had such an abundance that they can help and bless more people with them. Verse 15, and next him were Eden and Miniam and Jeshua and Shemaiah and Moriah, Shechaniah, in the cities of the priests in their set office, to give their brethren by courses, as well as to great as to the small. So this is give their brethren by courses. They're talking about giving them the appropriate amounts that they would be due according to the law to get the substance, basically. So all their needs are taken care of. Verse 16, beside their genealogy of males from 3 years old and upward, even unto everyone that entereth into the house of the Lord, his daily portion for their service in their charges according to their courses, both to the genealogy of the priests by the house of their fathers, and the Levites from 20 years old and upward in their charges by their courses, and to the genealogy of all their little ones, their wives, their sons, their daughters, throughout all the congregation, for in their set office they sanctified themselves in holiness. Also of the sons of Aaron the priests, which were in the fields of the suburbs of their cities, in every several city, the men that were expressed by name, to give portions to all the males among the priests, and to all that were reckoned by genealogies among the Levites. And thus did Hezekiah throughout all Judah, and wrought that which was good and right and truth before the Lord his God. And in every work that he began in the service of the house of God, and in the law and in the commandments, to seek his God, he did it with all his heart, and prospered. And I like verse 21. It's a good motivation for leaders to realize that when Hezekiah did anything, he did it with all of his heart. He put his soul into it, and he kept the commandments and worked to have God on his side. And it became a blessing to him, and he prospered greatly in everything he did. He went all in on everything he did. So lots of blessings and peace and opportunities for Israel. Thankfully, this is happening. This is a good time for them, probably one of the better times they've had since Solomon and David were around. And hopefully this lasts a little bit longer, at least, to keep going. But let's jump in the next chapter to continue on with the story.